Hi, I am Jennifer Purcell, and welcome to my podcast, Living with an Invisible Learning Challenge, where we will discuss, discover, and learn more about the challenges and triumphs of those with NLD and other learning challenges. I do have a website for this podcast, and it is called livingwithnld.com. I also have a Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter account for the podcast. They are all under the same name, which is Living with NLD. I also have a YouTube channel for the podcast, which can be found by Googling the title of the podcast, which is Living with an Invisible Learning Challenge. I would like to tell you about a nonprofit that I use for my research for this podcast. It is called the NVLD Project, and I use their blog for my research. They are a nonprofit that is based in New York and is trying to get NVLD back on the DSM, and they provide many resources for people with NVLD on their website. I'll provide you with the website for them in the podcast description. All proceeds from the ads on this podcast will be donated towards the NVLD project. Please feel free to explore the other topics on the podcast, and hopefully you will learn something new from them. I hope you enjoy today's episodes.
About how I'm feeling.
That makes sense to me. I've been ghosted a bunch of times and I know how that feels. So I would rather have somebody tell me, uh, why, not not necessarily why, but
Yeah.
that they are leaving. They don't have to say why. Um, but yeah, that makes sense what you guys were talking about, where to do it verbally with the it being exclusive or not, and if you want to like generalizing the relationship as well, I think that's good. And I think for me, I've had some people I've dated in the past where I thought it was serious, and then I asked them about that and they were like, "Oh, I didn't make that clear." I'm like, "No, you didn't."
No.
That's why I'm asking. Duh. I didn't say that, but I was thinking that.
Yeah.
Um, and so it's like, and I think for me, I wonder because I've dated mostly neurotypicals, not neurodivergent. And so it's like hard for me, like, well, were they giving a nonverbal cue that I didn't read that said they wanted to be serious or something like that? But what I was also wanting to ask was basically like from your standpoint of what kind of challenges you see neurodiverse or chronically ill individuals and neurotypicals too, I'm sure have challenges on dating apps. Um, like what challenges some of them may have if you're neurodiverse versus neurotypical, and what challenges do you think both people would have, regardless of neurodiverse or neurodivergent?
I think it sort of goes back to my earlier point about people not putting in the time and seeing that and like the time and effort to do that. And I think that people will get discouraged very easily, but I always think like it's better to have genuine people who's like you or who are interested in you on an app versus like 100 people that maybe just are swiping and whatever. And so I my advice to people is like just to not get discouraged when on a dating app or even dating just in person. It's hard. And but you don't want to settle. You want to find that person who genuinely um connects with you. And the difference is I think like the really beautiful thing is like all three of us or all four of us have different abilities and just like and different dating lives, and we all have like those understandings that like dating's hard. This is what's happened to me and this is what's happened to you. And they are all just like I mean, they're just all human. And so I think remembering that and when you connect with people is really important.
Yeah, I think shared humanity is key. And I think that there are absolutely issues that one demographic experiences over another. But my experience is I think that most of the issues are human issues. And I think one of the ones that we have fallen into, and I also think it maybe could be our generation to a certain extent, is the trap that just because you are a catch and excellent person, you're going to be right for every other catch and excellent person. And the truth of the matter is that you could have two really, really cool and great people that aren't compatible. Doesn't make either of them bad, doesn't make either of them any less of a great person. And I think that remembering that helps when we receive rejection, because we're all going to receive rejection, but it's not a reflection of you. Sometimes it's a reflection of the other person, and like, are they willing to be accepting? Are they willing to? Are they an adult? Do they know how to compromise? Do they know how to have difficult conversations? But it also can just simply be, this isn't the right fit, and that's okay. And accepting that that's normal and that's the reality for everybody. Nobody is right for literally everybody else, and that's okay. You'll find your people. I think is something that I think has helped, at least a lot in my experience of seeing people relax a little bit and ease up and know that when they do get the text message, hey, there's not a spark here, it's okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a lesson that I wish I knew in my earlier years. But I think it does take some time and maturity to realize that.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. What you guys were talking about with the humanity piece and the I think that's a good point that we're all human, even with being neurodiverse or chronically ill or whatever challenge that you live with. And you were, a lot of you were already speaking to this, but I was wondering if there's anything you hadn't mentioned of why you find this uh, line of work with dating apps and with helping with trust and safety, why you find it important to you.
I really love hearing our success stories. That's what drives us. Like when we had our first message that someone had found love on Dateability, we were so thrilled and we were just so excited and like completely reassured us that what we were doing was good and that we were making a difference. And especially with our community, just like the isolation and discrimination and just like how we are overlooked by so many people, we really wanted to make a difference within our community, and hopefully that bleeds into the rest of the world too.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, everyone deserves love. Everyone's worthy of love. And I hate thinking of systemic discrimination and just people being isolated. So those success stories and the positive feedback definitely keep me going.
Yeah. For me, it's a paradigm shift of changing the view that this niche group, pick any sort of group that's faced marginalization, that this niche group is an edge case. We'll get to them later. We have the majority of people here. And flipping on the head, those aren't edge cases, those are stress cases. Instead of it being, well, let's build for most everybody and then we'll figure out how we build for them. No, create the safer place for those marginalized groups. Because when you do that, you're really putting your platform, your application, whatever it is you're building, to the test. Because if you can create a safer environment for them, you're going to create a safer environment for everybody else. And you are going to level up what that safe experience looks like. And then it's no longer trying to, fit them in through the side door of, okay, well, you can be here if you do all these other things. It's, no, this was built with all of you in mind. And look at that. Everyone else can go through that door too. And it's a better place because of it.
Yeah, I really love that.
Well said.
Yeah, I like that too. And I feel like for me, while I don't work with dating apps, but for my podcast, I feel like it's the reason I feel mine is important for me is I really like advocating for people who feel like it's might be challenging for them to do that for themselves, or they don't know how to speak up for themselves. Sometimes that can be tricky, or they don't, putting voice to the voiceless, basically, and trying to educate people who uh, really haven't heard of NLD or other invisible uh, uh, challenges as well, and being, upfront about it and vulnerable with the challenges, and um, trying to give them a piece of, hey, this is really like what it's like to live with chronically illness, or being neurodivergent versus neurotypical, and kind of opening their eyes to see, oh, you know, if you're neurotypical, you might not think about some things that neurodivergents have as challenges. And I'm sure that's true for chronically ill as well. Um, and let's see. Oh, one of the, just a couple other questions. I wanted to ask, uh, what are some of the things that you find you like or dislike with your line of work?
Ooh, customer service can be difficult, but it's also can be rewarding. But I it gives me a whole new appreciation of that line of work. And like whenever I talk to so a lot of people will assume that who they're emailing is like either a bot or just like a random representative, and nope, it's us. So we see everyone's messages, and I just remind myself, like anytime I'm, if I'm talking to someone on Amazon or something, like just be kind. And I think that that really gets people far. And I've learned so much throughout this process, that more than I could have ever even imagined or frankly wanted to learn. But I have really, really enjoyed it. Like I feel like I've gained so much experience. This is really my first job. And it's a lot of managing. Like I've had my fair share of mental breakdowns. Like when we first had to file taxes, I was like, oh no, like I was like, they're gonna handcuff us and take us to jail because I do not know how to do this. And you figure it out. So I really enjoyed learning, and just feeling like an entrepreneur.
Yeah, the customer service part's hard for me, but it can also be rewarding. But I think all the people I've met that I would have never met had I not launched Dateability, and so that's been the best aspect for me.
My first job was customer service. I can feel the pain. Yeah. But I at least had a bigger team when I was working on. I wasn't the only one. But I think now the thing that's hard about my work is convincing companies that in a down economy, that trust and safety is still worth investing in, and that it is part of the long-term success and health of your platform. It's not simply a cost center. It is something that eventually drives long-term growth. And it can truly be the downfall if you don't do it right. But that's a hard thing to sell, particularly when people that work in the space are generally there because they believe it's the right thing to do. That's not always the argument that works for CFO-minded types.
Yes.
Yeah, I can understand the customer piece. And I think for me, really like what I do with my podcast. It's just a hobby. But I think for me, it's become more of just a hobby over time. And I can remember when I was starting this, it's almost 4 years now that I've been doing this. And I was really nervous with recording myself and had to do it many times. Sometimes I remember one episode I had to do like 20 different times. I was just stumbling way too much. Um, and I also realized over time, stumbling is okay, actually. I try to remind my audience that sometimes, because um there will be days where I'm like, do I really want to do my podcast because I'm like tired or in a lot of pain? And I'm like, maybe not, maybe. I think that's good to be honest with yourself and be mindful of your self-care too, and be like, hey, it's okay to, maybe do it tomorrow or skip a week and take a break. Uh but for me, I really enjoy interviewing other people and seeing how they work with their customers and their clients, and like you guys, how you make the apps more safe for people to use and more open. I really appreciate that. Um, I was also, well, we actually already talked about this a lot, but maybe there's some that haven't come up with like safety measures you really try to take with the dating apps, or also when you with people meeting up in person, since it's from the dating perspective.
Yeah, I think everything we talked about before, educating public place, sharing your location with somebody that you know will be diligent and like that you can trust, who will be watching over you. Um, Profile verification on the app, I think really helps. And then just like taking things slow and taking your time. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And so I think that having that in mind, like takes some of the pressure off and makes you more rational and less likely to jump into something without thinking about it first.
Well said. Not much I'd add to that.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I would say like like we said about with meeting up in person in public places. And Alexa, I think you added something good too with letting somebody else know where you're meeting. That's good too, to have like accountability, say, hey, like if I was, I usually do that with my parents actually. Since I've lived with them, I let them know where I'm going to be meeting somebody or with a friend, or uh, I think, oh yeah, I also did that because in college I did a little bit of dating. I would try to let my parents or my brother know or friend know where I was meeting somebody, because Jonathan and I both went to the same college at different times. So that was helpful to have that similarity and be like, yeah, I know where that place is. That's a good place. Or no, it's not a good place, Jennifer. Pick a different one, one that's more safe. Which I'm sure probably has happened with you, Alexa, with Jacqueline too, maybe, and vice versa.
Yes.
um, and what I was also curious is what you for you guys, what you hope for the future of trust and safety in dating apps, and for dateability as well.
For safety, I hope that the AI stuff kind of calms down, and AI generated profiles are really scary and they can talk with you. And so I hope that, we're able to combat that a bit. And for dateability, I hope that, we globalize, we become a household name. People know who, like everyone knows who we are, and anyone who wants to sign up can sign up and knows about us, because that's probably the hardest part, is getting the word out. And so we love doing stuff like this, to just share our story and let everyone know that Dateability is here.
Yeah, and I think for the broader industry, just the recognition that by creating safer and more inclusive platforms, you're adding to your customer base. It's not, there may be a little bit of friction that's being added when you create those systems and those features, but it's healthy friction, and it actually results in a higher quality experience for everybody.
Yeah, that makes sense to me too. And I would agree with you that we hope that there's more safety and trust in the future as well. And I agree with the AI piece, that it can be scary with it sounding so real, and like, no, it's not. uh, and I think that's can be a little scary. It's like, oh, I have to watch out for the voice now, not just visual piece, and be vigilant about that.
And I
And
will
Go ahead.
Stop at 2:45. We have another meeting to go to.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, that was the last question. I don't know if there's anything else you guys want to mention before we break.
No, we are so grateful,
Yeah.
and it's been lovely meeting you both and having this great conversation. And we're
Yeah,
just-
it's really nice to get all different perspectives. And I think that that's what makes adventures like all of ours successful is like the personal experience and like the personal desire to change. And I just commend all of us for doing what we're doing.
Thank you. And I agree with you as well. And I appreciate you letting me interview you all. And I will connect with you guys later as well.
Sounds good.
Thank
you.
you. Thank you
Let's
both.
stay in touch.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely love that. And have a great weekend.
You too.
Likewise.
Bye.
Bye.
Welcome to Living with an Invisible Learning Challenge, where we will discuss and discover the challenges and triumphs of those living with NLD, nonverbal learning disability, and other learning challenges such as autism, ADHD, dyslexia, dysgraphia, and any other invisible learning differences that one may live with. And I like to interview individuals as well who live with various learning challenges. So if you know anybody, please point me their way, or if you are that individual, I would love to interview you on various topics. So please let me know. And I welcome you to this podcast.